Aloha, and welcome to APA Formatting and Academic Writing, or kind of the bottom line, how to stay out of trouble with Dr. H while writing my papers through this course. I've decided to do this because over the last several courses I've been teaching, there seems to be some misunderstandings between some of the nuances of APA formatting as well as how to write academically. So let's get started. Academic writing is different from other types of writing. Certainly understand the difference from the note that you may send to grandma thanking her for the Christmas sweater. But it is also different from business types of memos, writing that you may have done in the military. Academic writing is about conveying information to the reader. Now, you build these skills over time, but we're going to be working on that throughout this course time. I want to stress to you to always take a look at the feedback I give you on your papers, because I'll give you feedback once, maybe twice, but I'm not going to continue to tell you the same thing every single week. There's subtle shades on how we write or how to write, and some of these important items for academic writing is primarily the things I pay attention to. Subject-verb agreements. It's key that you understand how to write a flowing paper where all of the verbs agree. Also, you want to try to be active in your verbs instead of I went to the store, I am going to the store. And therein, I just broke one of the cardinal rules of academic writing of using I. So we want to look at the personal, the tense, or the personal writing. So academic writing isn't about I, we, me, us, my. It's about conveying information in a third person, an objective point of view. Punctuation is huge. Now, punctuation can be hard and can be hard for all of us. And one of the things about punctuation is depending upon what your style of writing is, if you're writing to, American publishing or other types of maybe book writing, there are these rules. Well, in academic writing, there's those rules as well. APA calls for, especially in the transitional words, and these transitional words are therefore, however, whereas, those types of terms. If you're looking at a book or in a newspaper, you may see a comma before each one of those words, before and after each one of those words. Or you may see a comma before and no comma after. In APA, it calls for a semicolon in front of those words and a comma after. So pay attention to those little nuances. Another example is the word which can also be substituted for the word that. But about 98% of the time, if you use which, a comma goes in front of it. If you use the word that, a comma never goes in front of it. Again, a nuance to writing in the APA style. And now we have giving credit where credit is due. It is critical that you cite all of your work. If you read 3 articles and you come back and you now summarize that idea, you must cite where you got those ideas, because otherwise it would not have been your idea without having read the article. I hope that is clear. So APUS has some great resources at your fingertips or at the end of your mouse, however you look at it. So why play with fire if you can find out and get feedback before you hand in a paper for grading? For example, ask the librarian. Who better to ask about how to find a reference or where a reference could be found than the people who are experts at finding references and sources? The librarians also understand that you're probably looking for peer-reviewed sources, those that have some authoritative status in the environment of which you're writing. The Writing Center has everything like process for different writing products. Are you writing a math paper? Are you writing a research paper? Are you writing a process paper? Take a look at those. I mean, click on it and see what you can learn there. There is a direct link to APA styles. And I encourage you to use the library link over any other tools that you may find out on the internet or embedded in Microsoft Word, because a lot of the tools don't get updated with every edition change of APA. So if you're using a tool that is APA edition 5, version 5, and I'm on 6, you're going to get some different marks. And just telling me that you're using a tool doesn't rank real high. One of the best tools out there that's at your fingertips is tutor.com. APUS offers students 10 hours of free tutoring via tutor.com, and this is a 24/7 service, and they have a section where you can drop your paper off for review. So use that form, use that ability to get some feedback. It's always better to get feedback before I give you some. But again, I'm going to also tell you, I will provide you feedback. Please pay attention. And there's the topic of plagiarism. Just don't do it. Not only is plagiarism against APUS policy, it is also considered illegal if an author feels that you have infringed upon their copyright, and they can take you to civil court. And plagiarism is more than just copying and pasting sections or words out of one source and putting it in your paper and not citing it. It's taking someone's idea, their work, and portraying it as your own. Again, if you read an article and you're summarizing that article, that is not your work. So cite it. All right, APUS uses Turnitin as a checker on papers. Oh, by the way, lots and lots of universities use Turnitin as checkers on papers. So it provides a likeness of your paper to other works across the internet and across all other papers that's been handed in to Turnitin. I do look at the Turnitin scores, and I look at the hits for every paper, and I consider any percentage over between 25 and 30 to be something that I need to look into. Now, in my version of Turnitin, I can actually discount the reference area, which is really nice. So I expect to see Turnitin hits in references because there's only so many papers that people can write on IT or cybersecurity or, Jack and Jill, where references aren't going to start becoming the same. But again, take a look at what you are writing, Make sure you're not overusing quotes in your paper. Summarize it and cite it. Okay, so let's start looking at citing. You'll see my scribbles up top. You'll look at semicolons, ampersands, commas, and periods. The big thing is to know where these are and where they aren't as you are citing. So APA has what's called in-text citations. They can be formatted in many ways, but generally, most people put them at the end of the sentence. Notice where the period is. It's after the cite, not before the cite. If you put it before the cite, then the cite goes with the next sentence, and that may not be the case at all. You can also put, hey, this author said something. Well, you got to give them, just state where that is and the publication year. You may read a couple of articles and you're bringing some thoughts together. So how do you cite that from two sources? Well, it's author 1, comma, the year, semicolon, author 2, comma, the year, in that parentheses, and there's the period. And then again, you can also put them in the sentence and use it the same way as the one author. Well, you may have two people that have authored one article. So this is how you cite that one. Author 1, ampersand, author 2, comma, year, close that parentheses and put the period. You can also just put author 1, comma, author 2, comma, and the year. All right. Then we have this multiple author thing, and if you've read any research papers, especially from universities, you'll sometimes have 6, 7, 8 authors out there. So et al. Can become your friend, but you gotta use it properly. So the first time you need to cite that paper, you have to put all of the authors' names, the year that was published, and of course close parentheses and put a period. The next time you start to cite, you can put author 1 et al. And it takes care of all the rest of the names. Nice tool. Know when you can use it, know when you don't need to. You never use it for less than 3 authors. Now let's look at citations where you have quoted text. You don't want to overquote in your paper, but sometimes there's that quote that is so predominant, makes such a point, or is so known by everybody from a particular writer that you need to use that quote. So when you do, it's the author, the year, comma, and now you've got to tell me exactly where you found that quote. What is the page number if it's an article out of a magazine, if it's a book. If it is a website article, then you use a paragraph number. Just count the number of paragraphs. And of course, you can put it in the middle of the sentence or at the end of the sentence. The only delta to this is if a quote is more than 40 words, then you drop the quotation marks and you indent on both the right and left, and then at the end of that, you cite it again with the author, the year, the page, or the paragraph number. Clear as mud, right? And once upon a time, all we had was magazines, newspapers, books. But now we have so many different things that we can actually reference, like dictionaries. Once upon a time, it was just Daniel Webster. Now, it's dictionaries online or in print. So for those types of citations, then you're going to use the publisher and the year. So, Internet of Things is defined by a billion things being connected to the internet. You want to state the publisher, the year, because Daniel Webster may define Internet of Things a different way. Now, you can't have things that don't have an author. Sometimes newspapers are written without an author. There's lots of other websites that have articles that doesn't have a specific author to them. So, for those types of citations, we put the title of the article in quotation marks, comma, and the year it's published. If you can't find a year that it is published, then it is a little n period, little d period for no date. And this will be the same in the references. Government publications. What government department put this publication out? What year? And it doesn't matter what government put it out. It could be the German government, it could be Australian, or it could be US. So make sure that you put in the department that published. And continuing on with, today's types of references via yesteryear, we have YouTubes, tweets, blogs, interviews. So, YouTube, treated just like an article. Every YouTube, for the most part, has a who put it out, who was the author. And it's the author and the date it was published. For a tweet, it's the user's handle. So, my name, the year. For example, a tweet by Barack Obama. His handle is Barack Obama with no space between the K and the O. Just spell it out. For blogs, if the blog has an author, or if you're using a comment and it has an author, put the author's name. If it does not have an author, lots of comments don't, then you put the blog comment title in the quotation marks and followed by the year. And remember, close that parentheses and put the period at the end of the sentence. And finally, we have emails and we have interviews. Key here is to remember that you need to get the person's permission before you use these in your paper. And then, inside the paper, it's Dr. Holcomb, parentheses, personal communication, the exact date of that communication, close that parentheses, then go ahead and say, summarize, paraphrase what was said. And then you are covered. Okay, references. References and citations actually go hand in hand. Now, one of the things I want to state right off the cuff is that references go in their own section at the end of the paper. You just don't, hit enter a couple of times and then start your references after your closing paragraph or your conclusion. References, unlike your citations, because your cites are going to be as you use them in the paper, references are always in alphabetical order. So if a author or a title starts with, a number, then it is first. So 1, 2, 3, go. And then Abbott, Baker, Charlie. in alphabetical order all the way down through. If you have two authors that have the same name, same last name, then you'll go to their initials. If you have two articles by the same author, then you go by the publication date. Whichever one is earlier will be earlier in the references. Personal communications, those interviews and emails that I talked about on the last slide, these are not listed in the references at all. So you will only find those in the in-text. You will not find them in the references. The key to references: pay attention to where periods and commas are and are not. So, for example, a YouTube. It's the author, whoever published that video, their initials, period, open paren, the date that that video was uploaded or published, close it, and there's a period. What's the title? Tell me it's a video file. There's a period. And then retrieved from the URL. Key thing to understand, there is no period at the end of the URL, and the URL is not linked. Okay? Tweets are the same way. The handle, period. Publication, period. Basically, the title of what was there, colon, and whatever the tweet number is assigned there. And that can be a hashtag as well. And tell me it's a Twitter post. Period. And then retrieved again from a URL. Blogs are done the same way. So now let's start looking at those more common things. The government publication, okay, it was the Department of Finance, period. The year, there's a period there. What the name of the pamphlet was, or the publication, a period, and then where was it published? Washington, D.C. Could be, if it's Canterbury, Australia, then it's Canterbury, Australia. All right? Websites are something that does not have an author. It's the title, when it was published, who published it, page number, Washington Post, page 3. Dictionary, again, the publisher, period. Date, period. The term that you use, the Internet of Things, and then they all have, especially the online ones, have a name of their dictionary, WebTech Online. And then again, the URL. And now let's look at finally the more traditional of the references. So, last name, comma, the initials, period, year, published. Close that parentheses, put a period there. The title of the article, and look at the first word and of the title and the first word after a semicolon are capitalized. Others are not, unless it is a proper noun. For example, what to know in Atlanta. Atlanta would be capitalized. The name of the journal, comma, and then the volume, name of the journal, and the volume is italicized. The issue number, which is inside the parentheses, is not italicized. And then the pages of that, where the article is found. If the article, or it's a book, has a DOI number, then you put that at the end. There are some times that you don't see the exact journal. You retrieve it from a database like, the Washington Post archives. Well, you want to give the URL of that database so that I can find the article again. And then again, if you have that no date, N period, D period, treat multiple authors the same way. It's always the first author that determines in the alphabetical order that they will be listed in your references. I hope this little tutorial has helped. I really hope it's helped. But ask me any questions. Go to the websites. Look it up. Take the time and review your paper. One way of reviewing your paper is either letting someone read it or read it out loud, and make sure that you read every word, because then you will hear if it sounds like it's flowing or not. Anyway, again, thank you for your time, and I hope this helps. Aloha.